Hey guys, welcome to today's yin practice. So, we talk a lot in yoga, or a lot of teachers talk a lot in yoga about this idea of just letting go, of release. And I think that this is a really valuable concept. Right? We don't want to grip on to these things in our bodies and our minds forever. We don't often talk about the how and the what of letting go. So, in today's yin practice, we're going to focus a little bit with the breath, but primarily through this lens of traditional Chinese medicine and how that can help us get into some areas in the body, energetically, in our mind, that really can help us to move through some of these pieces that feel like they're hanging on, that get a little stuck in our bodies. So, have your stack of props or some pillows and blankets at home. We're going to start in child's pose, but with a little different variation. And that may or may not feel great for your arms, so you can choose to take it or leave it. So big toes together, knees out wide. We'll be here for a little bit, so if you want some support behind your knees, you could tuck a blanket or a pillow, snuggle that right behind your knees for a little bit more support. And then with your big toes together, knees out a little bit wider. And see if you can find the place where your knees support your ribs a little bit. So not so wide that the belly just softens and not so close that there's no space, but where do the ribs start to support on your thighs? Okay, and then this option for the variation for your arms, you can do this with or without blocks. You'll crawl your elbows forward, bend your elbows, bring your palms together, and then maybe your thumbs rest to your forehead or even up behind your head or your neck. All right, there's one. For those of you guys that have a little more range of motion in your shoulders, I think this one's not quite for everybody, but a great variation for some. You could bring it up a little higher and bring your elbows to blocks. And then you let your forehead soften to the mat or even to another pillow or blanket. Another option here, if you want even a little bit more support, is to put a pillow underneath your chest and your belly. We're here for a little bit of time, so take a moment to set up whatever props and support really help you feel like you can settle in. We find this little bit of edge where there's sensation, but we don't want there to be pain. So you want to give yourself enough support that you're really negotiating where that edge of sensation is. What's enough, but not too much. And then once you've gotten that all set up, you might close your eyes or just soften your gaze. Allow the weight of your hips to settle back. And your forehead to rest on whatever that might be, the mat, the pillow, blanket. And then just let your attention start to come to your breath. And take a moment just to first notice where it's at today. We don't even notice the breath all day until we come to our practice. And let's start with just a couple big cleansing breaths together. You can take a breath in through your nose, and then a big exhale out through your mouth. Sometimes even a little or sigh or something to help soften. Breath work can be great for just starting to settle the body and mind. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth. Let's do one more like that. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. And then to start to breathe in and out through your nose, right? So you can seal your lips. You don't have to press tightly, just letting the breath come through the nose. And we're going to take a really simple but effective breath work here. You'll inhale through the nose, count of 4. exhale through your nose, count to 6. And so just start to find that rhythm with your breath. Inhale to 4. Exhale 6. And so we think about breath in general is that our inhale breath is that more dynamic energy, right? The taking in, the heat, the doing. And the exhale breath tends to be that release, the letting go, right? We're physically doing that in the body. And so when we lengthen out the exhale, we're starting to put more emphasis on the letting go, on the release. And so mentally helps us start to shift into that place. Physically helps your body start to shift into more of that parasympathetic, the rest and digest mode. This is where our body can start to soften a little bit more, to release maybe tension that we're holding on to, and just signal the mind and body that it's okay to start to let go a little bit. Simply by lengthening out the exhale. It doesn't have to be perfect, just finding that place where the exhale breath is a little longer than the inhale. And I invite you to keep this breath throughout practice as it feels good, right? Or let it go at any point if it gets too much. But this one little layer of breath can be a great tool. And just take a couple more like that. And just slowly, wherever you're at, and start to unwind. Come to tabletop pose. You might even need to slide your knees in a little bit so they're right under your hips. Set your props off to the side for a moment. And then just give yourself either a couple nice slow rounds of cat-cow, so arching and rounding your back. Or if it feels like your knees need a little bit of space, you could stretch one leg out at a time behind you and just rock back and forth on the ball of your foot. Sometimes just that little bit of gentle movement in between sides is really beneficial after the longer holds. And then just come back to tabletop. Okay, we're going to do a little bit here with the wrists. So not always a classical yin pose, but something that can be really beneficial. We'll talk a little bit more about why. So to first start with, you're going to start to turn your hands out to the side. So fingertips point towards the long end of the mat. And then you can just start to work the hands around a little more until you find the right place for you, right? For some people, your fingertips might point back towards your knees. For other people, you're not even getting, right, past that kind of halfway point of fingertips pointing. Just keep working until it feels like, again, there's some sensation, but there's no pain. Be mindful of sometimes as you do that, the hands want to come really close together underneath you. See if you can keep them wide. And just stay spread out through your fingers. Right, we're not trying to do a ton of effort in yin, but just a little support here. Give a little press through your fingertips and a little softness through your elbows. And then just pause. Come back to your breath. The idea in yin is just giving a little time for the pose to settle in, less effort, more just being. So the reason I chose this practice now, you can do it any time of year, any time of day, but it's fall. And in traditional Chinese medicine, in most more ancient forms of medicine, fall is that season of letting go. It mirrors what's happening in nature. And trees are dropping their leaves. After the abundance of summer, things are starting right, to let go of color, of actually their physical texture. And so when we're in tune with that, we can encourage our bodies to line up with the seasons, to find those places of letting go. Okay, and start to turn your hands back around. You might even sit back just for a moment, take a couple quick rolls with your wrists. We're going to do one more here. And then come back to tabletop. Okay, so this one, for many of us, just doing one hand at a time is going to work. So you're going to turn onto the back of your hand and point your fingers towards your knees. So if you're someone who works at the computer, does a lot of work with your hands, there might be a fair amount of sensation here. So just be gentle, right? Enough, but not too much. A lot of control over where the sensation is. You can still stay spread out wide through your fingers. And some of the fun things about traditional Chinese medicine, if we're familiar at all with like acupuncture, acupressure points, they run along these specific lines in the body. They're lines of energy called meridians. And each meridian, or groups of meridians, are associated with certain seasons. Okay, go ahead, untuck that first hand, and then just the other hand turn onto the back of the hand. And then just as much or as little pressure as works to get to that just right point of sensation. So the two meridians that we're going to work with today are the large intestine and the lung meridian. And these are both the meridians of fall. And if we think just big picture about what they do, the function of both is elimination, right? Particularly the large intestine. But as we just played with the breath, the lungs have that function of elimination as well. Okay, so with that, just take a couple more longer exhale breaths here. Good, release that one. And then one more time, you can just sit back, either shake the hands out or take a couple rolls. We don't always give the wrists as much specific love and stretch. And then we're going to come all the way down onto our bellies. Well, prop yourself up on your forearms. And I would say have a block or a pillow folded up here or a blanket folded up. Just have it right out in front of you. Find the place where your legs can just relax. They don't need to effort at all here. And then we're going to make a couple options here for this next one as we get into the shoulders. So you're going to take your left arm and just thread it behind your right elbow. Option one, you can stretch your right arm out in front and then bring your forehead to some support, if that's your block or the edge of a blanket or pillow. You can even let your chin just rest towards your arm or your chest if that feels okay for head and neck. Okay, next option. If you're here and the stretch feels great and you can feel sensation, stay there. The other option is to take your right arm and snuggle it in front of your left. So you get this cross high up on the biceps. Right? Not every option is for everybody. You may try it, see if it works or not, and come back to that first option with the arm out in front. Works for a lot of people. Wherever you find yourself, just let your forehead rest somewhere. And sometimes the legs wiggle around to help you get into the pose. Let them soften again. Let the weight of your upper body rest onto your arms. And see if you can come back at least to start with to that breath with the longer exhales.
And even in that breath, to let that be a little bit softer so you're not forcing the exhale. You're just really finding that end point of the breath where it feels like you're emptying all the air out. And just really inviting that, the release, the elimination, part of that physical action of the lungs. And as you start to favor the exhales, does the body just soften a little bit more with that? Maybe, maybe not, just starting to notice. And so these meridians have really specific pathways through the body. Right? The large intestine meridian, that's where we're focusing here. It runs from your index finger up your arm, across the shoulder blade, and then up into the face, just to give you a general pathway. And so when we do things like acupressure, acupuncture, there are certain points along that line of energy that can help find balance within there. Within our yoga practice, within our yin practice, when we work within the tissue, that area, it can also affect those lines of energy. Think about just giving them like that compression, the stretch, which helps to free things up within that area. And so we've worked with the shoulders in child's pose and the wrists and shoulder blades here. We're working all within that area of the large intestine meridian. And let's just take a few more breaths for this first side. And you can just slowly unwind. Come back up onto your forearms. Take a couple of breaths at center. Notice sensation. And you can take your right arm, thread it behind the left elbow, and same options. Maybe left elbow comes, or left arm comes forward, forehead to your block. Or you snuggle the left arm in front. And you might choose a different variation side to side, that's fine. They feel really different side to side. Let your head rest wherever it wants to go. Let's see if you can just release any effort in the legs and the arms. And bring your attention to your breath to start with here. And where do you feel the sensation in the pose? And sometimes where the body is kind of stuck and bound up physically, it also can be a little stuck there energetically. Right? That's what acupuncture, acupressure, either, those points we work with. We want to get things moving a little bit more freely in the body. And we know that we can hold things physically, right? Tension in the body. But we also know that we hold, when you think about like emotions like stress and worry and fear, we tend to feel those in specific places in the body. And so working along these lines of energy, we can free up the emotions, the physical places that are stuck there. Everything feels like it's moving a little bit better. One of the things that I always just find fascinating about our bodies and our minds is that we don't always have to know in our minds, right, our thinking mind, exactly what's happening there. Our bodies are smart, often smarter than our minds. So just bringing the attention there. Right? We know that when we work with these meridians, when we have that want to release and let go, right, we're setting up the how to do it, but then also just letting the body work once we've set up that way. Sometimes having the intention in our mind is great, but we need to set up that certain physical structure within the body to help that as well. All right, so poses that affect these lines of energy are really, in essence, just telling our body what to do, telling it that we're ready to, right, start to eliminate, to let go. And so just take a couple more of those nice long exhales here. And you can start to unwind your arms. Come on back to center. And then go ahead, just prop yourself up on your forearms here again. Right, this time we'll stay for a few moments in Sphinx Pose. So you might have elbows right under shoulders. See how that feels for amount of back bend. You might even walk your elbows forward a little bit if it feels like a little less back bend would be helpful for you. I often hear just like to rest my forehead to the block as well. My head doesn't feel like it has to work. You could also do chin to chest if that works. Just find whatever feels best in your body and with the support that you might have. And again, maybe you let eyes close or soften. And let attention come to breath. And we're going to start to work here into the large intestine's partner, which is the lung meridian. And the lung meridian in general, right, runs from the bottom of the torso up through the diaphragm, center of the chest, out the collarbones, right, clavicle right across the front, down along the arm and out through the hand. Right, so we'll do a few poses that compress and open the belly and the chest. We're getting a little bit of that here. And then some stuff also running out through the shoulder and down through the arm. Right, and as we stay focused on the breath, and especially through that longer exhale, we're really inviting, telling the body what to do in that process of working to let go, to release. Right? What do we want to shed and slough off? Just like this season of fall, things just releasing and letting go. We're setting up that tendency now in the body. A couple more breaths here. And you can release, come all the way down to your belly. And just stack your hands. You can rest your forehead or your chin to your hands for a moment. let your hips just move gently side to side. Okay, and then from here, great one now into the upper body, right? Collarbones and into the arm. So you're going to take your arms out wide like T. You might even walk your right hand just a little bit, couple inches up at a diagonal. Okay, and then roll onto your right side. And you can let the side of your head rest down on your mat, or you might even slide a pillow or a blanket underneath your head, especially if that just feels like it supports the head better or is just nice and soft and comfortable. Again, you have a lot of control here, so you can roll into that sensation as much or as little as it works well for you. Right? So you might let the upper body come forward a little bit more, roll out of it. Right? Where you keep the legs stacked. You might even step the top leg behind. Ooh, like this feels like a good amount of sensation today. And eyes closed or soft. Let the weight of your body settle in here. Right? Do those exhale breaths still feel supportive, still feel helpful here? And when we talk about this idea of just finding some elimination, some release in the body, sometimes there's really specific things that we know we want to let go of. Right? Incidents we're holding on to, specific areas of tension within the body. And sometimes it just feels like more general. Right? We've got these nagging sensations that just kind of won't release. Right? And so either way that we come to our practice, we're allowing our bodies to really to do the work to set up that inner intelligence. I know that when we're settling into these areas that right support the energetic release, letting those energy lines, the meridian lines, and we're giving them space, the body will do the work it needs to. I know sometimes we start to talk about energy, right? We get a little woo woo. But we know that these practices of acupuncture and acupressure can be really effective in the body. That they help us really to bring into balance. And so they're really concrete practices, ancient practices that have been done for years and years, thousands of years. Good, couple more breaths on this side. And then you can roll back onto your stomach. And like we did before, you might just stack your hands, bring your forehead or your chin there. Just take a couple of breaths at center. See how your body feels after that side. And then as you're ready, no hurry, you can do the same, right? Bring your arms out wide. Right, this time we'll come to the left. So you roll up onto your left side. Maybe bring that support again underneath your head if that was helpful. And then just lean in or back out as much as it works for you. You can keep legs stacked or even step the top foot behind. That often, always, but often tends to increase sensation. So be mindful of what works for you. And let your body settle into that support. And see what works for breath on this side. Right. You still might be really enjoying those longer exhales. Sometimes we get to a point we just don't want to do as much effort with the breath. Notice where you feel sensation here. Where it feels like you might be able to settle and soften into the pose a bit. And so there really may be this balance. We want to set up how in the body we work to let go, the what of the postures, but then also finding just that little bit of trust in our bodies that they know what to do from there. Sometimes that means turning off a little bit more of the thoughts in the mind. And just letting things settle in or release out from your body. And so when the mind starts to get a little bit more active, can you just let it start to settle back into the breath and into sensation in the body? We have those to keep coming back to. Good. Give it a couple more breaths on this side. You're going to slowly unwind. Roll it back to your belly. Ooh, good one. And then take a moment at center. Couple breaths. Yes, and then from here, just going to roll onto your back. I would say have a pillow or a blanket or even one of your blocks and have that over on the left side of your mat. Once you get all the way down to your back, bring your right knee into your chest, stretch your left leg out long. And then just for a moment, give it a gentle squeeze of your thigh in towards your belly. Not a huge amount of effort, but a nice little compression on the right side of the large intestine. And then go ahead, bring your right knee over to your left to twist. And here's where maybe you'd put a little support underneath the right knee, especially if it doesn't all the way come to the ground. There's a little support there, just helps the body to relax into the pose. Your right arm can come out to the side. And turn your head and neck wherever it feels most supportive. And then maybe close your eyes or soften your gaze. In the first few moments of the pose, just settle into the breath. And into the sensation of the pose. And can you find that sweet spot of enough, but not too much? We often talk to you in yoga about twists as this mechanism for release, for helping let things go. And again, my brain tends to go to the why. I love to know the why. And we get here this great combination of the physical compression of the large intestine. And so the organ itself, we are wringing it out. And at the same time, right, we're working the lung meridian that runs up through the belly and compressing that with the twist as well. And so we're really working like the physical and energetic combination of those two meridians, and just that process of release, of letting go, right? The function of them both. And go ahead and give yourself just a few more breaths on this side. And then with your next inhale, you can slowly unwind. Come back to center. Bring both knees into your chest. Just take a little gentle rock side to side. And then whenever you're ready, no hurry, we'll switch sides. So if you're using some support, you could bring bolster, block, pillow over to the right. Bring your left knee into your chest. Stretch your right leg out long. And then do that same just for a moment. Give a gentle squeeze of your left thigh in towards your belly. And then bring left knee over to the right. If you want some support, let it rest. Block, blanket, pillow. If you feel like you don't need that, just let your leg come down wherever it feels right for you. Left arm out to the side. Your head and neck where it's comfortable. And settle into that feeling of breath and sensation for this side. I also really believe that our bodies are designed to work with the seasons. Right? We don't always tap into that. We don't always need to, right, with modern times. But when we can, give ourselves that chance to just tap into it, even in these little brief moments. We support what our bodies naturally want to do during the seasons. Right? We know things like summers are generally more active, we're outside, there's heat, we're moving and doing. Winters can be a little bit more time to hibernate. There's less light, we're finding quiet time. Right? Spring, things are growing, an area of generation, of generative energy. And fall is this time of sloughing off. And so just finding those little ways to support how our bodies want to be within the seasons, right, can help body, mind, energy feel like we're working with things instead of against it. And just take a few more breaths on this side. Come on, back to center. Go slowly. Bring both knees into your chest one more time. Just a little rock or squeeze in. And then when you're ready, we'll set up for just a few moments in Shavasana and final resting pose. So if you want support under your knees, you can do that. You could take a different position with your legs too, if that helps. All right, arms out or to your body. And then let the back body really settle and soften into the mat. And let go of any effort with your breath here. As you settle in, just noticing how your body feels. Right, knowing now that you have these specific tools, right? These shapes or poses that really support the body in that release and the elimination. So that we take it just from maybe an intention, a thought, right, down into the how, the what of the physical body. And let yourself rest just a few more moments here. Maybe you have a little more time, you want to stay and rest, you can always do that. If you're ready to come out, bend your knees, place your feet to the ground, and then roll to your side. Help yourself back up. And bring your hands together at your heart. And sit tall. And then bow in head to heart.
And thanks so much, as always, for sharing the practice.
Namaste.